Well, here we are once again with another friggin' Criterion Collection movie that I don't have. So I'm going DVD-less. I could just like, I could just show you Sisters or All That Heaven Allows and pretend like it's Ivan the Terrible. But whatever you can. Anyway, hello there, Nate Jackson here, Criterion Collection reviewer guy, person of sorts, and we are back with Eisenstein Soundyears parts 2 and 3. I guess you'll call it parts 2 and 3. Ivan the Terrible part 1 and 2. Now, this is something I'll probably mention this again. This is another one of those weird cases where Criterion's system of numbering is thrown off, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not quite sure exactly how it works, or of course I don't have the DVDs with me. I put a hold on it, but they didn't bother to ship it off this week. This whole week I've just been waiting for them to ship it off. They shipped off Alexander Nevsky. I had that one, but for some reason Ivan the Terrible parts 1 and 2 didn't ship, so I said rather than wait a whole week or whenever they were going to ship it off, so you know what, they're on YouTube, I'll just watch them that way, and then we'll do it this way, because there's not a lot of supplements anyway. There's deleted scenes for part 1, and then there's, I think, an essay for part 2. So not much, and I want to focus on part 2 a little more anyway, because that's the one that is apparently a little more interesting, and not interesting, but a little more important, apparently, because of its censorship, and I'm assuming that's why Criterion gave that one number 88 in the series. For some reason, in the box, I'm assuming, I've seen the box, it's still in print at Barnes & Noble or Criterion.com. The box apparently has 86. Eisenstein the Soundyears is 86. Alexander Nevsky is 87. Ivan the Terrible Part 1 is spine numberless. And then Ivan the Terrible Part 2 is 88. I don't get it. Now, it might be, I'm assuming that's what it is, because that's what it says on the website. If you look up Ivan the Terrible Part 1, there is no spine number. It's possible that it could be Ivan the Terrible Part 1, number 88.1, because that's what they did with Brazil. All 3 discs are 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3, which is clever. I mean, it makes sense, and it makes sense if we did it here, But they're both separate movies, Brazil, was all the same. It's one movie, all 3 discs based around one movie. Whereas Ivan the Terrible Part 1 and Part 2 are 2 separate films. They weren't shot together and then shown at different times, or they aren't the same film, they were shot separately. So yeah, it's interesting. But anyway, let's talk about Ivan the Terrible part. I watched Part 1 yesterday and watched Part 2 today. No, actually no, I watched them both today. Where am I? I don't know where I am. I said I was gonna watch it. I told you guys that I was gonna watch it yesterday and then do the review today, but I decided to. I actually found no time yesterday, so today I just watched Part 1 and Part 2 together on YouTube. They're still up if you'd like to see them. The translation isn't too bad, actually. Makes really perfect sense. For some reason, Ivan's name is spelled Ioann, and for a while I wondered who they were talking about when they said that. But then I put 2 and 2 together. So, Ivan the Terrible. Part 1, let's just talk a little bit about Part 1. I wanted to focus more on Part 2 because that one had the spine number, but but I needed to talk about Part 1. So basically, the movie starts off when Ivan the Terrible becomes the Tsar, and as soon as he gets in, he starts making changes. He starts saying he'll rule them all, and his aunt wants his son to take over. No, he takes over Kazan. And he puts these explosives underneath the city and blows them up, and it just shows how crazy he is, or how just powerful he is. But anyway, shortly after that, he becomes really ill, and he wants his infant son to rule, but he's only a little baby. And his aunt, Effer something or other, wants her son Vladimir to become the Tsar, and he's mentally challenged or something. He's just he barely talks throughout both films. He's just He has this really childlike expression on his face. And he just looks around, and this is like, you can tell he's like, him in charge, ooh, lordy. Anyway, so at one point it looks like Ivan dies, and his friend Andre, I think it's Andre. That's the problem with this, I don't have, there's so many characters to remember, and I don't have the list with me. And I should, if I'd have been thinking, I'd have written them down, but it's like, whatever. You get the gist. You'll get the gist of it. So he swears allegiance to the infant because it looks like Ivan dies. But when he comes back, but then he comes back and it's like, all this craziness. And so, what happens next? I'm already blanking out. And so, I guess as part of like a way of revenge or something, the aunt, Ivan's aunt, poisons his wife, the Tsarina, and now he's like really pissed off because he thinks it's the Boyars and something. So it's like something like, so he does declare war on some other thing, and I think that's where part 1 ends. So part 2 kind of picks up where they left off. His friend who had declared allegiance to the infant, I think, had abdicated to the other side and was in control. And you see him in the beginning, but you don't really see him throughout the rest of the film. I think it's like he has a short scene at the beginning. But anyway, Ivan, God, this is tricky. Ivan actually ends up finding out that his aunt, he finds out that his wife was murdered. And so he tries to figure out, and he thinks it's his aunt because she was the one who filled the glasses. But he isn't sure, and so he gets this proof when, like during the miracle play, where he makes some kind of announcement or something, and so just he looks at her face and he can tell that she's guilty or something. So as a way of like, and so once he realizes that she killed him, or she killed her, he then declares that he will be what they call him, Terrible, Ivan the Terrible. And so, but basically the one thing he does is he invites his aunt's son, Vladimir, the childlike boy, to a feast where he gets him drunk and he has him pretend to be the Tsar because during the feast he tells him that Vladimir tells Ivan that apparently there's some plot to have him killed, and so he has him dress up as a Tsar, and Ivan follows him and bows, and he has him like do this like faith walk or coronation thing, and so as he's walking, the assassin comes out and kills Vladimir, and Ivan's aunt comes out and thinks she's happy, and she comes out all boastful and everything until she finds out that Ivan's walking straight and all that, and she looks and she sees it's her son that was killed, and she's all pissed off, and so the assassin is released because he only killed a clown, according to his words. And Effer, what's her name? God, I wish I could remember their names. She's arrested, and so he's happy now, or he's released. He's relieved that his enemies within Russia are no more, and that he can start focusing on the ones outside. And at this point is when part 2 ends. And apparently there was going to be a third part, and I'm assuming that's when that was going to chronicle his life up until his death. But apparently part 3, production on part 3 was silenced because part 2, unlike part 1, was censored by the Russian film boards. I guess Joseph Stalin didn't like it. He loved part 1, but part 2 apparently was a little too anti. I don't know. It was a little much as far as leadership and government. He read between the lines, and he could see, I guess, Eisenstein had something to say with part 2, and so for years it was banned up until 1958, when it was finally released in 1958, just 10 years after Eisenstein died. So it's interesting to know that I'm assuming that's one of the reasons why Part 2 gets a little more acclaim at least from Criterion than Part 1. Another notable thing about Part 2 is that there are some scenes in color. The whole scene with the whole feast scene is in color, or at least the copy I watched. And then the final scene at the end, Ivan's final speech about his enemies being only outside of Russia, is in color as well. So I'm assuming they like that. But yeah, that's just one of those curiosities. I wonder why Criterion did it that way. Now, I liked Part 1 a little more, just because the plot was a little easier to follow. But they were both. I went into this thinking that I wouldn't like these movies as much as I did. But Eisenstein, he's a great director, and he knows how to tell a really good story, and their actors are all just sick, really awesome. And I wish I remembered his name, Chervasov or something like that. The guy who plays Ivan the Terrible, he's the same actor who played Alexander Nevsky. And I was looking at him, I was like, that's the same actor, isn't it? You could tell his eyes they both have very similar eyes. I'm like, that's him. It's just the makeup, the wig is all different. So that was a trip. So I was like, all right, this guy can act. So I was impressed. I was actually pretty damn impressed with Ivan the Terrible, and I wouldn't mind seeing it again. I mean, I might even buy it just to have them on DVD and to just be able to see the movie with with their translations. It's not going to be one I'll buy for a while because it's pretty expensive. Even though I could get it for the sale, could save some money and get it on the sale for like, I think it's like $70 bucks, $80 bucks. I could get it for 35, 40. But honestly, we'll see. I mean, there are other ones I want to buy for my next paycheck, the Criterion, which we will showcase Thursday or Friday. More on that in a second. But anyway, let's rate it. Ivan the Terrible, I give it a B. I give it a B, just like Alexander Nevsky. Plot was a little confusing at times. That might have been because of the translations that I watched. But even then, I think But at the same time, great acting, great storytelling, and shot beautifully. And I would love to see him again sometime. It's pretty. Yeah. You got me, Eisenstein. You got me interested. And now all I gotta do is check out his silent films. Maybe he's got a good silent film under his belt somewhere. So let's see if Criterion released any more of them. I mean, I haven't checked their list, so it's possible there's one out there. And of course, you're more than welcome to tell me if you want in the little comment thing down there. Ivan the Terrible Part 2 B, Ivan the Terrible Part 1 B. Yeah, we'll give them both B's. 2 B's. 2B or not 2B? No more Hamlet. Oh god. All right, that's it. All right, so the future. This begins. I think that looking at my schedule right now, I think we can have this done by next week, because unless of course there's something that happens up at the library. But right now, I'm gonna try and do one a day until we get to number 100. Because right now I can do Sisters tomorrow, and I'll do Sisters tomorrow, and then Tuesday, Quiet On, Wednesday, The Blob, Thursday, Fiend Without a Face, Friday, Black Narcissus, Saturday, I Know Where I'm Going, next week, All That Heaven Allows, and then hopefully Written on the Wind on Monday. Yeah, hopefully Written on the Wind on Monday. Tuesday, Do the Right Thing. Wednesday, La Ventura. Wednesday, La Aventura. I think that might be a little too long for me on Wednesday, because I don't have a lot of time on Wednesday because of work. But we'll try. We'll try for it. And then hopefully Thursday, Give Me Shelter, and then Friday night, Beastie Boys video anthology, and then we'll be done. And then we'll do some kind of like review videos, hopefully a Criterion Collection showdown. And then we'll be done for the season. And then I'll be taking a break, and we'll come back in about a month or two, just to recharge the batteries. Can't be watching movies like craziness, but the same time, I do want to keep this going because I'm liking a lot of what I see, and I'm learning about all these awesome movies out there that I've never seen. So, hey, this is definitely worthwhile, and I hope you guys are enjoying my commentary too. I mean, I know it's not the most intelligent, but hey, I'm just a guy. I'm just trying here. So, anyway, so that's it for me. Thanks for watching, as always. Don't be terrible. Don't be a terrible Ivan. Be a good Ivan. Be a very good Ivan. But don't be a crazy childlike Ivan. Don't be a childlike Tsar. Anyway. Thanks for watching, and we will see you tomorrow for Brian De Palma's Sisters. Cue White Christmas, Rosemary Clooney singing with herself tomorrow. But anyway, thanks for watching. See you tomorrow for Sisters, and good night.